too.
Awesome. Okay, so we are going to jump into content. And Dave, I jumped to this. I know
Mhm.
you were talking about the post you created the other day, like with your
Mhm.
cats, and how did
Mhm.
that go?
Uh, I I I don't not a bunch of activity. Last I looked, not much. I was kind of surprised, really, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I That's my attitude. Is just I put it out there, and oftentimes I sometimes I don't even look much because that just sets you up for disappointment, and
yeah. Well, and I think what we need to do is look at it from a learning perspective. And
Mhm.
sorry, I'm in a phone booth office today. And there's a little shelf right here. I didn't realize it was showing, but there we go.
I've
Yeah,
been in
Dave,
those
I
phone
think
booths.
look, content is designed to help us create rapport, to
Mhm.
be human and project into our community who we want to be and how we want to be known. It's the way that one of the ways that we can strategically influence our personal brand. And so a lot of it is trial and error, right?
Mhm.
Um, my dad jokes is part of my strategic plan for my
Mhm.
personal brand to be remembered. What I discovered is that a lot of people would kind of remember me because we have 5 kids, and that's a lot and kind of crazy.
Mhm.
People remember me as the 5 kid guy, but
Mhm.
I wanted to think through how could I leverage that to stay top of mind with people. I can't always go 5 kid, 5 kid, 5 kid, 5 kid. That gets a little
Mhm.
old and boring, right?
Mhm.
And so and it wasn't that I hated dad jokes before, but it wasn't that I was this like went around and told 10 dad jokes a day type of
Mhm.
person. I liked them. I thought they were funny. I had a few that I did a lot with the kids, and they would roll their eyes. And
Mhm.
um, but I decided to add it into my my strategy because I needed something else uh, to help stay top of mind and be remembered. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So what I want you to be thinking through as we go through this today is what are the conversations that you've had with prospects at a live event? Maybe it's something you've had at a dinner or a lunch or over a cocktail or a coffee or anything like that. Often those conversations are mostly personal, kind of human, get to know each other type of content, and with a little bit of business mixed in.
Mhm.
That's the type of content that we are more comfortable with sharing
Mhm.
in a business environment.
Mhm.
And I want you to be thinking about that type of stuff as we go through this, because what I want you to do at the end of today, over the next week, is start working on a more strategic content publishing plan.
Mhm.
And you have access to the social publishing calendar, and we'll go through that and how to use that too before the end of today. Does that sound fair?
Yep. I
Cool.
looked at the spreadsheet. It's cool.
What's that?
I looked at the calendar spreadsheet for posting that you
Oh,
share.
good.
That's great.
Oh, good. Yeah, and we can go through yours if you want to today, and we just kind of talk through it and how we use it. And there's
Mhm.
a piece of that, excuse me, that brings in more of the buyer enablement process. So
Mhm.
more of Tom's content. Like
Mhm.
once we move somebody from cold and unknown to a healthy relationship,
Mhm.
then what do we do? And a lot of my posts are actually designed that I don't really care what anyone does with it today. That post is going to be something that I link to when I'm dripping information to
Mhm.
prospective customers.
Mhm.
And I like to use LinkedIn posts for that purpose because it's much more innocuous, right? It's not threatening. As soon as I share a link to a website, it smells like sales,
Mhm.
and people are hesitant to click it. They're hesitant to really pay attention because everything they're doing now comes from the lens of, oh, Brandon's trying to sell me something now.
Yeah.
Right. And with demand generation, we're trying to help them create their own demand and want to talk to us versus us trying to break through and convincing them to talk to us. So we've got this multiple tiered approach with our content, very strategic. We want to become known. We want people to like us. We want to use it to help build healthy connections. But then secondarily, which is honestly kind of primary, is we're seeding it so that we can strategically share it with people with gosh, Dave, I wrote this post the other day. It's about XYZ. And in our earlier conversation when we met, you mentioned that you were in sales, and I wanted to share this post with you. Love to hear what you think about it, or see if maybe it just adds value to what you're doing or helps you think through things differently, right? It's a seed, or as Tom will call it, it's a brick, and getting them to walk down the path that ends at my doorstep with them going, we got to talk.
Makes sense.
Any comments or questions on that?
No, makes total sense.
Hey, Brandon,
And,
do you know that you have a white screen that's showing? Are you trying to show something?
Yeah.
No, I did not know that I had a white screen showing.
Yeah.
Well, let's try this again.
I mean, it was pretty impressive and everything, but
I'm showing my desktop. Do you see?
Oh, there we go.
that looks a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Well, she's prettier than a white screen to look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
And this one, I like this one because he's all energetic and colorful and everything. And like, Dave, our voice becomes part of our superpower. It's not the only thing, as you know. I would, if I had a choice that I could only do one thing, I can only comment or post, I would choose commenting. And the reason I would choose commenting is because I can strategically go comment in ways that I know certain people are going to see my words. When I publish content, I have no real control over who sees my words. The best that I can do is tag people, but you can only do that so much until you're annoying. So this is part of that 1-2 punch. I like to call it the social two-step. If we're gonna dance our way to social selling success, we need to do the two-step, and it's comment and publish. It's comment and publish. And there's a bunch of other things around, like searching and finding the right people and hashtags and all that other stuff. But at the foundation of it all, we have to comment and publish very consistently and very strategically in order to establish that reputation that, in modern terms, they call it a personal brand. When the three of us started selling, it was a reputation. How are you known in your industry? Are you known as being a pushy jerk? Or are you known as being a networker? Are you known as a guy that knows people? Are you known as a guy that knows how to solve problems? Are you known as the guy that shows up every month with a box of donuts? Right? We are able to control our behavior to create a reputation. And sometimes we don't really think about our behavior and we just get a reputation. So as we look at this, it's much more about being strategic to control our reputation. So this is the content value pyramid. And every type of content has value, but it's the way that we use them that is different. And what we did is we hired some virtual assistants around the world to go in and look. And we did it around the world because we also wanted to make sure that this was consistent in different cultures, not just in North America. And what we wanted to do was we categorized posts into these 4 different categories. And then we evaluated them based on how many likes did they have, how many comments did they have, and if we could see how many views they were getting, or if we asked the publisher of that post, yeah, hey, would you mind telling us how many views you had? So some of it were with people we knew, some of it were with people that knew people that we knew. And so we're trying to do it as scientific as we could. Basically, this is what we got to. The bottom of the pyramid are those that get the lowest engagement. Therefore, they have the lowest reach. And therefore, it's like walking into a room with maybe your closest friends who already know you and who already like you, and you're telling them all about who you are.
Mhm.
And what that looks like is when we post things and we get like 3 or 4 likes, and they're like 2 colleagues, a best friend, and our mom. Yeah, great. I got 4 likes, but they all already know who I am. They already know what I do. And there was absolutely no value in that post for today. Right now, it could be valuable down the road. It could be valuable when somebody comes and checks out our profile and they go look at the things that we post and they're scrolling through it and they've got more of the lens on of, hey, I'm checking this person out because I'm thinking of, engaging them as a buyer for something. Well, then it's good to be there. So when I say it gets lowest engagement, it's lowest reach, it's fewest likes and fewest comments and all that, it doesn't mean we don't do them. It just means we need to understand how it's going to play and then therefore how we may or may not want to use it in the future. Okay. I'm going to pause there for a second. Do you guys have any comments or questions?
No, I think I understand exactly what you're saying.
Cool. So as we go up the pyramid, first of all, at the bottom, it's brochure, it's very advertising, it's it's salesy. And
Pitch
there's
slapping.
different, what's that?
Pitch slapping.
It's the pitch. And like I said, there's times that it can be valuable and appropriate for us. But if that's all we do, what happens is we just sound like we sound like a billboard for our company and nobody wants to talk to us. Nobody cares. And we train the algorithm to ignore us because what we're doing is, hey, everything I post, no one cares. No one comments. And then the algorithm goes, you produce crap. And so we're not going to show it to very many people and you just get in this, cycle. The next one up is curated content. And this can be with or without a link. Now, when we share content, if we put a link into an outside LinkedIn page, the algorithm doesn't favor it. So you'll notice a lot of times if I do share a link to something outside, I'll write in my post, link in comments.
I saw that.
And I'll put the link there because then the algorithm's not reading the post and go, oh, there's a link to an external source, reduce its reach because we don't want people leaving LinkedIn.
Yep.
But this is as a curated piece of content. You're sharing your commentary or your insights on something, right? And I've got a simple model that we can do when it comes to curating content, and we'll get to that. We can get into it deeper on another time, but it's very simple 3-touch process. I read this article because, fill it in. This is an important article too, and you put in the title of your ideal customer or your industry or something that relates it. And then you say because, so this is important to B2B salespeople because, and you fill it in. And you say, here's 3 key things I took from this article that I believe are most important. And your 3 could be 4, it could be 2, it could be 1. I don't recommend it's 20, but you get the idea of just saying, hey, I read this article that's important because of these things, and here's what I took from it. Now, here's why that's important, and Tom and I were talking about this the other day. But like Mark Clausen, he's a global sales leader with IBM. I was on the phone with him one day. This was several months ago. And I don't even remember why he shared this story with me or what we were talking about that made him share it. but he said he was with the CEO of Winnebago.
Mhm.
And as Mark always does, he's like, well, how can I help you? And the CEO said, you know what? You know what you can do for me? Read for me. Mark's like, what? He's like, you could read for me. He's like, I am so busy now. I don't have time to read. And so if when you're reading things, if you'd summarize it and give me the highlights, I'd really appreciate that. And I think in our busy culture, one of the ways that people get their content is through social feeds from
Mhm.
people they respect and read what they say, think, or know about
Mhm.
other topics. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what curated content is. Tom, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's 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 really, to me, becoming, you can become a lot more of a thought leader or an opinion leader by curating content, in some cases more than writing your own, because people they want to know what's out there from other quote unquote experts. And if you can
Mhm.
aggregate that, then in some ways you become the super thought leader, because you're the one aggregating it from
Mhm.
that perspective. So it's a strategy that I think is often overlooked, and a
Yeah.
lot easier than necessarily writing your own,
Mhm.
or take it and write your own little, like as he said, write your own little take on it, but it's still
Mhm.
coming back to the same thing.
What are your thoughts about putting a link, someone you're connected with, let's just say the connection is not, it's not totally healthy yet, you're just trying to engage,
Mm-hmm.
a link to an insightful article in a LinkedIn message, because that takes them outside of LinkedIn also.
Yeah, it does. I think there's a few variables here. One is, and I always go back to, does it stink of sales? Because as soon as we start stinking of sales,
Mhm.
we've at least got to be very cautious and be aware
Mhm.
we can scare them off. Buyers are skittish like a scared cat, right? And until we earn that right, they'll be skittish and we need to consider
Mhm.
them skittish.
Mhm.
So it depends on where that relationship is. Now, for me, my process is, can I take someone from cold to a healthy relationship
Mhm.
before I start sending them links? Anyway, tagging them in a post, sending them a link in LinkedIn message,
Mhm.
anything like that. My style is, can I get to some sort of a human to human connection,
Mhm.
but healthy? Now, the way I define healthy is I have a higher probability, or I have a high probability that they would accept a phone call with me if I asked for it.
Mhm.
Okay. So for me,
Yeah.
it's my social prospecting framework: comment, 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 send the connection request. And I know you're already doing this, so I'm moving
Mhm.
through quickly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Comment again, reference that comment, and ask the person to get on a Zoom or a phone call to meet. Networking only on that call, no sales unless they move it in that direction. That's kind of I
Mhm.
don't sell unless I'm asked to, right? They invite me into it, then I'm all in. But if not, I stay away from it because I'm very aware I don't want to
Mhm.
reek of sales.
Yeah.
And then after that call, my hope is that I've laid good foundation, and then I'd wait 4 or 5 days and then drip a message to them with a link. And I
Mhm.
start at the very bottom of the bricks.
Mhm.
It's the most innocuous, value giving, non-salesy brick that we have, but it's designed to help them start thinking and start seeing me
Mhm.
as a source of their research.
Mhm.
That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Uh,
It, go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry.
it does. That's the evidence from what I've been doing is I'm not getting I'm not getting phone conversations when I ask for them. After, maybe I'm moving too fast.
Well, let's, we can pause where we're at right now and unpack that a little bit and tell us what's happening. I want to.
That would be good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, I mean, I've been doing, I mean, before I even knew you guys, I mean, I had somewhat of a framework from my friend Bill McCormick, uh, in the sense that, commenting, and Larry Levine, uh, commenting, and then, and asking for the connection request, uh, and then I'm struggling how to articulate it. I just haven't had a ton of success with, even when they engage, once they've connected, I haven't been able to get a engagement back and forth such that they're comfortable enough, I suppose, to get on the phone, because it's not happening.
yeah,
I'll send some article. I've probably, maybe I sound salesy. I've sent links to industry related articles and ask insightful questions. I asked them, I'd love to get your opinion. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Would
Mhm.
you be open to getting on a call sometime and, brief conversation?
Yeah.
And I don't get response from that.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, before I answer that, do you want to give him your opinion on that?
Does that help?
My opinion on why he's not getting the call, or
Yeah, I mean, you wrote a book called The Revenue Zone that's about nurturing people, nurturing buyers. And so I want to kind of defer to that into what Dave's doing.
yeah. So I think the way to look at this is to take a step back and look at, and I think, Brandon, this is probably something we do need to do more of, is the bigger process. So when you get to the point where you've got somebody connected and then you reach out for whatever engagement, one-on-one engagement, right? It could be a phone call or a Zoom meeting, or even if you're local, a coffee or whatever. There's only a and I don't know, Brandon, you might know percentage wise, but I would suspect that maybe 1 out of 5 might take you up on that at that point. At that point in time. But that doesn't mean that they're not interested or that they don't care. It just means that, for whatever reason, I don't know, it's too much, right? You jumped, I'm just not ready, whatever the case may be. So then that's where the next part of the yellow brick road starts to come into play, is now start feeding them content based on the yellow brick road. Have you seen the book? Did you give Dave the Revenue Zone book, Brandon? And it's in the community as well. There's a whole, and there's a free training and stuff where I go through this, but now is when you have to start feeding them content based around the yellow brick road, which is to get them to the point of having enough demand that actually they would want to have a conversation with you, not just based on, hey, he seems like a nice guy, but is actually creating demand for whatever it is that you do. And if they shut you down, and again, it's not buy my stuff. It's not here's buy my stuff. It's again taking that content to the whole nother level on once you've actually established a connection with that person. And I think that's, Brandon, maybe one thing that we need to make sure is better understood is that the process holistically isn't just, okay, they didn't accept my phone call, we're done, I got to move on. Because I think it can look that way. Okay, that we got through here. No, to me, it's just it's a checkpoint along the way.
No, to be clear, I mean, I don't give up by any means. I just, I just note that, I'm patient. I don't, I mean, just because I don't get a response right away doesn't deter me. I don't take that negatively. It's just information I take to look at what I'm doing and is there something I can do better? Or am I doing okay? And just be patient with this person. I've had some connections. I'll comment instead of, I'll make a decision to comment on something they posted or liked rather than a message. But I did have a question while you were talking, Tom, in that, how do I bring them content? I mean, the only way I know to, my thought is that, I mean, the content needs to be in industry specific, or something that pertains to their industry. But how do I do that without bringing some sort of article into it from a subject matter expert?
Well, that's okay. That's okay. That's why, and again, it would probably be worthwhile, Brandon, even if we do it as part of this program, is to get Dave kind of at least a rough framework of his yellow brick road, because then he knows, then he would have a framework of what to share with them. It's not like, oh, now what do I share with them? It's like you start building because, and do you have a copy of the slide with the matrix at all, Brandon?
Not pulled up, but I can. So bear with me, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a really great point that we need to make sure I mean, you're doing a good job, Dave, of getting people to that point, right? You're getting people to the point of the connection, and, even a semi-healthy connection.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're ahead of a lot of people that aren't even doing that. So
I'm way ahead.
Yeah.
And that's not tooting my own horn. Just I came into social selling with somewhat of an understanding because of my work with Larry and Bill McCormick. I mean, I knew when I came to work here at Pratt that I was going to be working on digital selling. And so I do a lot of homework outside of work, and I feel like I'm in college as I'm working. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, it's great. Because the number of people that we talk to, it's like, that give all these excuses of why they can't even go through the process that you're going through is, you wouldn't believe it.
Oh, I probably would. I've heard it all.
We could write a whole book on just excuses.
I tried to lead a sales team, a very closed-minded sales team 3 years ago when I had 12 or 14 salespeople. Try to lead a sales team into buying into adding social as a means of another tool in prospecting, and the excuses were just crazy.
Don't have time anyway.
Yeah.
So on the revenue zone matrix here, right?
Mhm.
What you're doing when you're doing the social prospecting is you're moving that prospect over on the bottom arrow there on the know, like, trust. And you're kind of, there's awareness maybe of what you do, but you're not trying to get them interested in your company, your product, or anything like that. You're trying to move them left to right on the piece that's there. And then the goal is, right, if you do get that person who's willing to, if you do get that person that's willing to have the phone call, then that's awesome, because it can maybe accelerate when they go, well, what do you do? And then all of a sudden you end up, leapfrogging them into that interest level, if nothing else, about what it is that you're actually doing. So, but if they're not willing to have the phone call, then we need to start taking them down the yellow. So they're kind of over here in this picture. The little guy is over here, maybe around the like or trust zone versus the no zone. But now we need to take that arrow, that yellow arrow, and start moving them so that we're creating demand around what it is that you're actually doing, or just qualify them, right? They may come back and go, for whatever reason, please leave me alone. Okay. Or something like that. That can happen. But it's not likely going to happen if you know what you're sending them and how you're kind of gradiently, step by step, moving them through that process that's there. So the yellow brick road that we talk about is defining what would be now the content that we would then provide in what sequence, to bit by bit, piece by piece, is we call them the bricks, take them from awareness maybe of you, of your company and what you do, into ultimately demand. So you may end up getting them to demand first and versus trust, or you may get them to trust you because you have a phone call, and then you can get them to demand faster. That's why we do it, but not everybody's going to do that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what you're trying to do with social prospecting, the little blue bubble there, is exactly what you're doing. Although you're probably getting, that picture, Brandon, we should probably even show that you're actually, that guy is a little bit more to the right, because if you've done your job right, you're probably at least in the like zone, on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're,
I mean,
you're in the friend zone.
yeah. I mean, like an example might be, and keep in mind as well, I mean, that, and I mean, I know you guys know this. I mean, many times I don't, the person that I'm moving along the know, like, and trust, I'm not even sure they're who I really need to get to, to get into the revenue zone.
Right.
But I know I do. Anybody that I can get to know, like, and trust me will help me.
Yeah. And I think that's why that initial conversation is so important, but also knowing their title is so important. Right. And I think the complexities now of buyers and buying teams, there's a lot of people that don't have what I would call legit authority to make decisions, but they have very strong influential authority on the decision maker. Right. And, Carson talks a lot about this on the show, is that, and we do the exact same thing, just in a smaller scale. Right. There might be 2, 3, 5 people that are influential in the decision, but a single, business owner that makes the ultimate decision.
Yeah.
But if we've built that rapport, we've shared content, what we're publishing, how we're commenting, we're top of mind, we're dripping information to them. We've got 3 of the 5 people that are champions of ours in a good position.
Yeah.
But it takes work.
Oh yeah. I mean, for context, I think so you guys know, I am going for pretty large fish. I'm like Dick's Sporting Goods, for example, or Discount Tire, companies that have a lot of stores and are bringing in a lot of revenue. So it's pretty complex.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm up for the challenge. I mean, I'm energized for the challenge.
Yeah. Well, and I would let me get back to where we were.
And I am making some progress.
But we should probably work with Dave a bit, Brandon, on the Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
So he starts to know that, I think, because like I said, I think he's moving ahead faster than a lot of the people that we would deal with here.
Yeah, well, let's plan it. We can even do that next Tuesday if we need to.
Yeah.
I think that'd serve Dave well. Let me get through this because it all pertains to and I'm gonna move quicker through this and then tell you why I wanted to make sure that we got through it. The next one up is your authorship, and this is where, and it could be a post, it could be an article in LinkedIn, it could be a blog article on the company website, it could be a video in YouTube, it could be a live event, right? Anything that is really around you sharing your expertise. This is really, really, I think, critical, and how we do it, I think, has evolved very quickly in the last year. And Dave, think about this for yourself. Our show, Social Selling for Newbies, how much credibility did that give to me and Tom with Modern Seller HQ and your investment into Inner Circle?
Well, a bunch.
Right.
Yeah.
And I knew I was kind of leading that answer, but I think that what we've learned is, number one, a lot of people think, oh, everybody's got a show and a podcast. Well, I think the reality is that a lot of people start shows and podcasts, but they don't stick with them. Right. And when you're creating that episodic content every week, Whether,
Mhm.
again, it could be you start your LinkedIn newsletter and you go, I'm going to publish something every Tuesday in there. And then, you go, oh, but I'm not a writer. It's going to take me too long. Well, then don't write it. Use it as a video, right? Or, hey, I don't like video. Well, then use the LinkedIn audio. Just be consistent. Like Rachel Simon, who's one of the coaches, she does a weekly audio LinkedIn show,
Mhm.
right? She doesn't,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, chooses not to do video, but it's episodic. It's every week.
Mhm.
It creates that credibility. It moves you down the know, like, and trust axis without realizing it's doing it with a lot of people.
Mhm.
I've shared this story multiple times. I've had somebody who's a C-suite of a 18 to 20 billion dollar company who sent me a message one day, direct message. Hey, can we have a private conversation about XYZ?
Mhm.
I knew we were connected on LinkedIn, but I had no idea she was paying attention to the show.
Mhm.
I had no idea she was listening to the things that I said. So
Mhm.
that authorship in some way, shape, or form, post, newsletters, whatever, as we're sharing that, we're helping establish ourselves in their mind. We're building our reputation. We're
Mhm.
establishing our personal brand.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the last one is the human side. And I think the reason this is so important, not I think, I know this is so important because people do business with people who they like and who are like them. And the only way people know that we're like them or that we're likable or that they even have the chance to like us is if we're sharing it. Now, again, when I talked about at the very beginning is you got to think about who you want to present yourself as. And I don't mean to be disingenuous.
Mhm.
I want you to be very authentic,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean you have to go full open Komodo and just be like, here's everything about my life.
Mhm.
That's why I think about your conversations with prospects or customers over a drink or over dinner.
Mhm.
They are personal in nature. We do divulge things about ourselves and our personal lives in those, but we don't throw everything out on the table and go, hey, have fun with it, right?
Mhm.
So I want you to be thinking through that if you haven't done that personal branding work before. We got to take an account, who are we talking to? One of the things that and as an example with dad jokes for me, I knew that our target audience was going to be that 45 to 50-year-old, has been successful in sales, but looks at LinkedIn and this whole new digital selling thing and gets overwhelmed. And our whole focus is how do we help you all take your successful experience and apply it into a new medium called digital.
Mhm.
We don't talk to the 20-year-old
Mhm.
BDRs. We don't talk to the young 30-year-olds that are all about, sales loft, cold email outreaches and things like that. It's just not our target audience.
Yeah.
So for me to add dad jokes into the mix, when as I was working with a few different people on my personal brand, they're like, well, I know a lot of people that just don't like dad jokes. They think they're corny and stupid. And I said, yeah, that's fair. Who are they? And overall, it became younger people, and I was okay with it not being not worried
Mhm.
about it because that's not my target audience.
Mhm.
Now, what I have found is there's actually a lot of younger people that get a kick out of it because they'll
Mhm.
go, "Oh my gosh, you remind me of my dad." That's fine as long as I'm remembered. So I want you to be thinking about those things. Like, Dave, if you love color and you're always wearing these colorful shirts, man, I would consider making that part of your shtick,
Mhm.
right? Like once a week, talk about the different colorful shirts you have, where you got them, why you got it, what is it that you like about it, and just own it, right? That's
Mhm.
very authentically you.
Mhm.
It's unique, it's memorable,
It is.
and allows you to be very human. Now, why am I going through all these and talking about them? Not only is it about what we post, but I believe all of these variables work together to help us get those calls, right? The
Mhm.
more human you are, the more people can relate with you, the more likely they're going to say, yeah, I'm going to get on the call with that Dave guy. He seems like
Mhm.
a hoot. or whatever it may be, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm going to get on the phone with that Tom guy. He seems really smart in distilling things down because Tom
Mhm.
talks a lot about frameworks,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
What is it that opens those doors for you over the years? What is it that your clients have said about you that made them more drawn to you, more liked you, right? Those are the types of things that we need to bring to surface and then move into our posting strategy,
Mhm.
because we're intentionally moving our reputation.
Yeah, I get it. So here's what I'm thinking about as you say that. I'm thinking, well, the last 15 years, I can't say I haven't had a ton of face-to-face customer facing deal. If I wasn't customer facing because I was leading a team.
Right.
But what I did the last many years, I finally learned that, you know, my salespeople are my customers, and I need to build relationships with them such that they know, like, and trust me.
Yeah.
And so I can relate somewhat to what you're saying, as in I'm thinking about, well, what did I do to get that fostered relationships with these guys such that they like me? Because they all like me and we all had a good time and we're still in contact. That's what I'm thinking about. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, I think sometimes, Dave, we gotta find the research where we can.
Yeah.
And I would think through, as you were managing those sales team members, were there some of the customers that you were more involved with than others for
Here and
whatever
there.
reason? And are they
Mhm.
people you could pick up the phone and call or send a
Mhm.
message? And I love stuff like this, just being
Mhm.
totally honest and authentic, right?
Mhm.
Hey, you know what? I know we haven't talked for a while, but I'm doing this thing where I'm working on my
Mhm.
LinkedIn
Mhm.
brand, and it's
Mhm.
really kind of cool. But I'm reaching out
Mhm.
to some people and asking questions. Would you be open to have a quick conversation with me about it? Like,
Mhm.
I find that those types of authentic,
Mhm.
trying to do something better with my life, or I'm trying to figure something out
Mhm.
conversations
Mhm.
are received really well.
Mhm. I have reached out to just over the weekend, and I was off yesterday. Um, I reached out to 5 people who I know pretty well,
Mhm.
and they successful people, and in my view, and I asked them to a favor to give me to review my LinkedIn page and just give me a feedback. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's the idea is to represent me and make
Mhm.
people curious. Give me some feedback.
Yeah.
I,
How'd that
that'd
go?
be
Did they
interesting to see.
respond?
I haven't seen any yet, but they will.
Okay.
They
Yeah,
will.
and one thing I found that's worked with some other some past people I've worked with is great message, and invite them to join you in the process.
Hmm.
Say, hey, I'm doing this with LinkedIn because this reason. If you want me to take a review, if you want me to look at your profile and
Hmm.
give you some feedback on it, I'd love to do
Hmm.
it. Like that whole
Hmm.
reciprocation effect. We know that in sales, right?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
always want to
Yeah.
be reciprocating and serving
Yeah.
them as well. So something to
Yeah.
consider as you go through that. I want to go through this fairly quickly for this point of kind of bringing it all to conclusion, and then leave some time for a little bit of QA
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
These are just some of the examples. This is one with my company, Funnel Amplified. I mean, we were so excited. We were launching our Chrome extension. It was going to do this really great, great stuff. And this was, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I can't even
Hmm.
remember now. Woo-hoo! And then look, it was 128 views. I had 2 people like it. One of them was our marketing person, and the other one was a friend that already knew all about Funnel Amplified. Right? Didn't
Hmm.
do me any good. Didn't do
Hmm.
me any good with the algorithm.
Hmm.
I equate it to, I got into a really, really great room, and I started sharing this great information, and there was nobody there to listen to it. Okay. Now, however, if somebody was coming back and looking through my profile
Mhm.
and trying to see some things that I've talked about, it was there.
Mhm.
And that's not a bad thing. So
Mhm.
yes, we need to understand its lowest engagement, its lowest reach, but at the same time, it's not a complete failure. We don't avoid these things. We just go into it when we post them, knowing that, hey, my play with this is going to be somewhere down the road.
Mhm.
Now, things like this, I like to use in post because I can go grab the link to the post and
Mhm.
share that with somebody instead of sharing them a link to my website or sharing a link to the
Mhm.
Chrome store, which tends to stink a little bit more like sales. I use
Mhm.
them differently, but
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that you have an idea of
Mhm.
different ways that we can use it.
Mhm.
Curated content, again, this was, I read an article and I shared kind of the process that I shared with you before.
Mhm.
Um, I started this one with a quote. Anyone else deal with this in sales? And then I talked about the article I read and
Mhm.
a few key things that I thought about it. That,
Mhm.
right? 2,600 views, 21 likes, 20 comments. Starts to get a little bit more play.
Mhm.
Then with authorship, let me get out of that. Well, authorship is fine here. This is an older deck. I didn't realize this was still in there, but this is an article that I wrote and put onto what's called my Buyer Hub. It's like uh,
Mhm.
a micro blog site inside the
Mhm.
amplified pages. But as you would imagine with authorship content, it starts to go out. I would say my best authorship content right now is social selling for newbies.
Mhm.
And we're leveraging that for, I don't know, 10, 15,000 different views per week based on all the different places that we put it.
Mhm.
Okay. Now I shared this with you. This was my most successful human
Mhm.
type of post.
Mhm.
It was very natural.
Mhm.
Um, and as you can see, I was telling a little bit of a story. I said the doorbell rang. I answered it. This is what I saw. Now, the the story of it for me was I start to say it in there is I heard a motorcycle coming up our driveway. As you can see, we kind of have a long driveway. And because I have 5 kids, I start going through my mental Rolodex of like, okay, Maddie, our oldest, I mean, she was at college at the time. Her boyfriend doesn't drive a motorcycle. And I'm just kind of checking the boxes, trying to figure out who in the
Mhm.
world is at my door in a motorcycle and the doorbell
Mhm.
rings. I go on over and I look, and it's Evan. And Evan at the time was our 10-year-old neighbor. And he pulled up his little, face covering thing on his helmet.
Mhm.
And he said, "Hi, Mr. Lee, can Zoe come out and play?" And Zoe was 8 years old. And I start laughing internally because I'm like, oh my gosh, what came to my mind was I never thought there'd be a boy at our doorstep on a motorcycle asking for my daughter for at least, 10 more years, right? Ha ha ha, chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. I tell the
Mhm.
story.
Mhm.
And this is what happens.
Mhm.
278 likes, 126 comments, and 53,000 views. And I think it kept going up from there over a little bit of
Mhm.
time. I think it hit up over 60,000 views.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Now, why do I share this? That post was very natural,
Mhm.
but it was very human. So
Mhm.
think about things that you are thinking about. Think about things that you observe,
Mhm.
and think about things that you feel. Those are the common things that everybody goes through.
Mhm.
So when we share things like, and they could be as silly and as stupid, maybe even embarrassing if you can handle that and be okay,
Mhm.
and think, oh my gosh, nobody's going to relate with this, you'll be surprised at how many people relate with it.
Mhm.
And there's a twofold process, there's a twofold value proposition with this for me. Number one is it humanizes us. It takes away the stench of sales because now we're just another person. Yeah, we may happen to be in sales. But the other thing is sometimes when we do stuff like this, I've got one of my students, if you will, who he's really big into cycling.
Mhm.
And he never posted anything on LinkedIn about cycling. And after he started working with me, he was incorporating some of his rides and some of his personal stories and what he's doing.
Mhm.
He sells really expensive banking technology, very niched. But he did a post and he showed a picture of him standing on top of a hill or whatever. He has his bike over his head and he's celebrating, but he tells a story about how much pain he was in, how he didn't think he was going to be able to do the ride. It was like
Mhm.
it was a once in a lifetime opportunity type of thing, and tells a story about it. And this guy that he was a connection with, he had never engaged with him before, who also happened to be an ideal customer and a buyer in a bank in Southeast Asia, was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm a cyclist too. Oh, I've wanted to do that ride. And they bonded and it moved very, very quickly down the revenue zone.
Mhm.
Now that story is like an ideal story. I get it
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah.
But as we put this type of content out there, we've got these two big value propositions that we're doing for our sales effort. One, we're humanizing ourselves. And number two, it gives other people opportunities to connect with us, engage with us, talk with us. And the more that that happens, the more opportunities we have for conversations. And it's in conversations, digital, Zoom, phone, whatever. It's in those conversations that we have more opportunities, or opportunities are created.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So in the name of time,
Yeah.
oh, I want to share this. Sorry.
Okay.
I've got to drop Brandon for another call.
Okay.
But yeah, let's do some revenue zone next week. I think that would be
Yeah.
a good idea.
That sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Tom.
See you, Tom. Like this is a cadence to think about. And if it overwhelms you,
Mhm.
I don't think it does, but anyone else may be
Mhm.
listening to this in the future.
Mhm.
If this overwhelms you, reduce it. Gosh
Mhm.
darn it. There we go. I like this. For me, like I strive to go like, hey, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go all in. And so when I start, I'm like, I'm going to post to LinkedIn every day. And this was the schedule that I started as a 4-1-1-1. And it was 4 curated social posts. I read this, I heard this, I whatever. I thought about this from someone's conversation. To help me get going, I used other people's content as the launch pad, because when I sat around going, what should I write? Nothing came to mind.
Mhm.
Right? But
Yeah.
if I started paying attention, this is what I want everybody to think about. Start paying attention to everything else that you're reading, you're
Mhm.
listening to, you're watching,
Mhm.
and then respond to it.
Curated means exactly that, just drawing information from other sources, right?
Yeah. And when you do it with social posts, like maybe you read someone else's social post. Maybe it was a post from, Boot Barn, one of your prospective customers, made you think about something.
Mhm.
Tag them in it. Share the article. Share the post, right?
Mhm.
We're just having a conversation. It's just in this digital resharing, tagging world. And then
you can share a portion of that article
yep,
and tag them without putting a link to it, right?
exactly.
Just put it in quotes and yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I would tag, I mean, if you took it from
Yeah.
the business page, I would tag them, right?
I do that. I do that.
The value of it is that, let's say Boot Barn, I know is one of your named accounts. Let's say you tag Boot Barn. Well, it's going to start showing up to all the employees of Boot Barn that are active. And there you are. And you're saying something brilliant. Right? So that's the value of it. The one curated article or social post, again, for everybody, if you're not there yet, it's okay. But instead of just making it a social post, you can curate it into like a newsletter article. in LinkedIn, turn on the newsletter and creator mode and turn that into more of an article. I mean, your posts are limited. And what I found is when I max the character count with a social post, my engagement tends to drop,
Yeah.
right? So, but more of an article, and then you can write a social post to promote it that's got much smaller.
Hmm.
Once a week, talk about your company, talk about the value proposition, talk about things that you like about the company,
Hmm.
talk about the company. It's okay. We don't fully avoid it. We just don't make it everyone. And then at least once a week, a human post. And for those that are more comfortable, do two. It's okay. This is
Mhm.
just designed to be a cadence to help get started. And again, for everybody, if once a week is overwhelms you already, well, let's strive for once a week as a starting point, and we can work our way up.
I like it. I have one thing, just
Yes.
one, because I know time wise. The question about the comment button, if Navigator, do you need Navigator or is it just somewhere in the rollout?
You know what,
Anybody
Dave?
been
I
able to
have
tell you
not.
anything?
I'm glad you asked again because I've not heard back from people. I think everyone's like the two people I sent it to are like, I'm not sure. Let me go investigate too, because I can't find information on it
Yeah.
either.
That's
So
interesting.
let me make a note of that
Yeah,
and
that's
follow
interesting.
up with people.
Yeah, and I'll ask some people too, because I asked Bill McCormick about it, but it was over electronic, and I don't think he didn't understand what I was speaking about. I'll get with him and actually we'll share screens and stuff. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. If you find out anything, I'd love to hear
Mhm.
it, and I'll
Yeah,
follow up with people. I'm so sorry I don't have an answer for you. I can't find one.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's how it goes sometimes.
yeah,
But we keep looking though.
we keep looking. That's right. That's right.
Cool, cool.